but they had to ego up, and they had to keep egoing up, and they had to keep egoing up. And at what point does the thing that protects you become who you actually think you are?
And so I think we build these walls to protect our heart, and it ends up protecting our heart, yeah, but it also keeps us very closed-minded.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 1168. Is your past better than your future? Today, for episode number 1169, how has your ego changed over the years? So Alan and I gave a speech to 8th and 9th.
7th and 8th.
Correct. 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th, 11th and 12th graders. That's correct.
Yes, correct.
That is correct. And we noticed that the youngest group of kids were the most open to what we were talking about. The middle group was a little bit less open. And then the oldest group had the most, what we would say, quote unquote, ego.
And so how weird was it, Kev?
I wasn't done.
I know. I know. Sorry. You want to continue?
No, I was really
okay,
kidding.
all right.
I just knew that would be a good one.
That was good. So how weird was it that our performance improved? So after each of our speeches, we dialed some stuff in. It got better. Our performance got better, but it was received not necessarily better.
Respect.
Yeah, no, it was received worse. Yeah. And on top of so it's 7th and 8th graders, 9th and 10th, 11th and 12th, and then we also trained the staff in the evening. And what we noticed, Kevin and I, is a closing. So we learned this from David Meltzer a while back, I want to give him credit. Open heart, open hands, open mind. Open mind, open heart, open hands. Open mind is open to new belief systems, open to new cultures, open to new ideas. Open heart is willing to be vulnerable, willing to look stupid, willing to disagree, willing to be judged. Open hands is willing to do the work. Whenever I coach someone, I am always looking for someone with an open heart, open hands, and open mind. I'm thinking of one client right now. Her name is Jerry Ann. Shout out to Jerry Ann. Very coachable. What do I mean by that? Open heart, open hands, open mind. Open to new ideas, open to new possibilities, which are open mind. Open heart, meaning willing to be vulnerable and honest with me about her strengths and her shortcomings. And open hands, willing to do the work. 75 days in a row of tracking. That is an ideal client for me. Now, I've had clients in the past that didn't have an open heart, open mind, open hands. They were closed off. And it was really difficult to close. It's kind of like, imagine trying to pour value into a glass and it's closed off. The top is closed off. Lack of humility, lack of vulnerability, lack of courage. It's really difficult to help someone in that position. And so Kevin and I give this speech, and there's a lesson in it, which is when we're younger, we're very open. We're very open to new ideas. We're very open to new cultures. And, little kids are not naturally racist or sexist. I think that usually if they have racist or sexist parents, that can happen or whatever. But when we're young little kids, we're very innocent, we're very naive, we're not very conditioned yet, and we're still very open-minded. We're very, very wide open, for lack of better phrasing. I've said open like 1,000 times in this episode. And none
of this would have happened if you didn't interrupt me.
I know, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. But the key here is, have you let that shut? Have you let the possibilities shut? Have you let the willingness to do the work shut? Have you allowed the pain and suffering? There's that great quote, I say it all the time on Conscious Couples podcast, the walls we build to protect ourselves from the bad guys and girls also keep out the good ones. And so the middle schoolers were really...
I was pleasantly surprised.
I was too. And luckily, we started with them because that was a good confidence booster for us. We came into the second speech ready to rock, and we thought it would get better from there. And we were wrong. What's your take?
That's what you have.
Yeah.
So I told Alan I was going to say this. Your reality becomes the parts of your imagination that you hold on to and pour into the longest.
Yeah.
Your imagination, the reason we titled this, How Has Your Ego Changed? We're in trouble. Because It literally got to the point where during the speech, I think the older kids were actually making fun of us. Like, I genuinely think they were actually making fun of us at certain points. And I wanted to say this, but I didn't have the courage to do it. And I didn't know if it would be a bad look for the brand, or I didn't know if the principal, I didn't know. I just didn't have enough certainty. But I literally wanted to say, I understand that it's not cool to get better. I understand that. I understand at your age, it's not cool to care about getting better. It's not cool to be vulnerable.
You don't think so?
No. Hell no.
No? What is cool? Not giving a crap?
Yeah. Yeah, I think in high school, what's cool for the vast majority, and again, I don't know, I haven't been there for a long time, maybe it's changed, but back then it was almost like doing stuff that's not good for your future. In a way.
It was like cool.
Think about the cool kids in our school. They were the people fighting after school, having the parties. So I wanted to say that. I understand that it's not cool to get better. It's not cool to look in the mirror. It's not cool to talk about what we're talking about. We're talking about perseverance. We're talking about
growth mindset,
and we're talking about your future.
Planning for your future.
I understand what we're talking about is not cool.
I think it's the coolest thing ever.
I know.
But I'm also weird.
Yes, and I wanted to say, trust me, I know people I went to high school with that wished they talked about this because they're not so happy anymore. Because it's not cool to not have your goals. It's not cool to not have a great relationship. It's not cool to not have the life that you want. But that, I mean, a lot of that is the ego of, what are these guys talking about? I don't want to be here for this. Self-improvement, vulnerability. Oh, you have a podcast? Cool. That. So the reason we titled it the name that we did is because the younger children had very little ego. They were very curious. They were very open. Were they listening to what we're saying? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they were just there and they're...
Remember that one girl who's like, that's a huge tree?
Yeah.
You know, I showed a picture of a redwood for an analogy because a little acorn creates this massive redwood, self-belief. And she's like, that's a huge tree. That was awesome.
And the crowd went wild.
Yeah, the crowd did go wild. Yeah.
So the point of this is, how has your ego changed over the years? Were you somebody who... you were open to new ideas, you were open to new thoughts, you were open to feedback, and something has happened over the years, and you have a more hardened shell. You're closed off. That's what we saw in real time between the younger kids, the older kids, and then I would say, and if any of the staff is listening, there was definitely some staff that were very open, but there were staff that I also believe was laughing at us.
Yeah, definitely.
And there was ego there of... And again, in fairness, we sucked. We didn't do a great... The staff training wasn't great. It was not our best performance, and we take full ownership for that. But again, there was...
I thought I would do pretty good. No, I'm kidding. I was laughing in book club. Sorry to interrupt you again. I apologize. Yeah. It's like the 8th time. I'm so sorry. I said only I could bomb a speech on effective communication.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that. We had a good laugh where it was like, only... Alan was leading it, so that's why he's saying he bombed it. But only Alan could bomb a speech on effective communication by not being able to effectively communicate on it. That was the joke. But there was a wall. Yeah. There was the wall of, we have to prove ourselves to you. You don't even want to hear what we're saying. And again, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. The people have to be there, and they don't necessarily want to be. Yeah. It's the last thing they want to do at the last part of the day. They want to go home. So there's a lot of barriers to that. But there were also some people that were nodding their heads and they were smiling and they were saying, yeah, that makes sense. So I think it's one of those episodes to check in with yourself of, are you the most open you've ever been? Are you the most closed you've ever been? Are you the most curious you've ever been? Are you shut off to certain things? Where are you now? Where is your ego now as opposed to where it was a year, 5, 10 years ago? Jeff.
I had a moment earlier in the gym. This is good. I had a moment earlier in the gym. I talked to Kev about this.
Yeah.
And you noticed this too.
A lot of ego.
A lot of ego.
Yeah.
What is that about? That was so interesting. And you said city? Something with the city?
I don't know.
Maybe city?
I don't claim to have all the answers for that, but I think there's a lot of
There was a lot more than I thought.
I think there's a lot of confident and or pretending confidence in a city because there's so many people and there's so many similar jobs.
I think the ego, you have to protect yourself.
I think so. And you said you wanted to talk about the ego. What is your definition of ego? We probably should have started with that, but as with us, we don't do what we're supposed to do usually. My leg's broken.
I think the ego is the walls we use to protect ourselves. I think the ego is the identity. It's, and I've said this many times before, that the inner circle your primary truth, imagine someone without ego, a little kid. Who they really are is who they think they are. So it's who they really are, okay? The next layer is who you want to believe you are. The third layer is who you want others to believe you are. I think that there was this one kid, and I'm not picking on him or anything, but there's just so much ego there. He was like walking like he was, posture like was exaggerated. He was walking like King Tut, King shit. I don't know, Pharaoh reference, but he was walking like he owns the place, but not from a place of I put in the work and I've earned it and this is the energy I'm going to hold. It was from the place of I want to pretend I'm better than you. And you can tell the difference. I can now. I don't know if I used to be able to. And honestly, I think I'm guilty of this too. Definitely, as a kid, for sure. And I looked around and I think there's two things happening. I think one, there is a lot of ego in that gym. I think the other piece is as you and I work on our ego, I think we notice a bigger contrast. Who was it that I was on the phone with? I was on the phone with Brandon, and Brandon said he's noticing ego everywhere. And he's noticing that a lot of people are not fulfilled. And I said, of course you are, because you're more fulfilled. So you have a new perspective of the level of fulfillment you're at. So of course you're going to look around and see most people not fulfilled. Ever since I got in my relationship with Emilia, it's been drastic to see how few relationships are actually fulfilled. But I would have looked at my past relationship and said the same thing because I'm from a different, it's almost like we're on the 30th floor right now. So if I'm looking from the 30th floor, those people down there look really small. If I go down to that perspective, they're actually probably bigger than me, some of them. And I think that everything is relative to what you've experienced. So if you and I are working on our egos every single day and we're eating humble pie all the time, and by the way, we're disheartened in fitness, not feeling ourselves in the gym.
Humble and regular pie.
Yeah. Humble and what?
Regular pie.
And regular pie? Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because we're eating too much.
You're eating too much.
We're eating too much.
I said we were eating too much. Is that what I said?
You said you're eating too much.
Not today. Today I'm dialed in. 2,050 calories.
I'm tracked to hit my calories. I'm on a streak. One day.
One
not
day
even over
streak.
Yet.
You're eating too much. No, I'm kidding.
I'm going to take off.
But it's 10 o'clock at night, everybody.
That's a joke, just for reference. Yeah, and honestly, this week's episodes, I feel like they've been really, really good, but definitely different because you and I are sitting across from each other, just for reference. Alan and I will be in the middle of something, and one of us will literally just look at the other one and be like, all right, I'm going to take off. And it's just funny because we can't take off. That's all that is.
And so, because we're constantly getting humbled, I think, particularly in fitness these days,
that's a fact.
I think we're noticing more ego. I'm going to tell this story briefly as well. There was this one girl in the gym that I think was trying to get my attention. And that's happened before and whatever, it's all good. And I appreciate it in a certain respectful way. But the way in which she was trying to get my attention was extremely exacerbated. The way she was walking around me, the way she kept looking at me, the way she would walk when she passed me because she wanted to check and look back and see if I was looking, all that stuff. And I'm happily in a relationship, like beyond happy. So there's no part of this that's ever even going to occur. And I think that's actually making her ego even bigger because she was very attractive. She's used to guys falling for that stuff. And I talked to you about it and you're like, well, I said, does that actually work? And you're like, honestly, it probably works a lot. And she was attractive, but I remember thinking to myself, like, I seriously doubt that you're like a deeply secure, holistically self-improved human being who really has true merit and wants to earn her own success every single day. And here's why. Her ego is just pretty big. She just has a big ego, I can tell. And to define ego here, it's kind of like distortion. It's almost like you're holding this bravado that you haven't earned. And we've all been guilty of it. And then there's the flip side of that coin, which is the turtle shell, which is someone who is just constantly protecting themselves by staying small. So I think you either puff up with your ego like this woman was doing to try to get my attention, or you turtle shell up and you hide. But both are a protection mechanism. One of them, you're so good, or you think you're so good that you don't have to put in the work. The other one is you don't think you're worth it, so you just hide and shell up. And both are an excuse not to. Both are a protection mechanism to hold you back from real feedback. And this is the drive to 5, which is Kevin's afraid that he's not going to be a good speaker, so he doesn't speak. I already think I'm a great speaker, so I don't go speak. That kind of thing. The 10 out of 10 is so arrogant they don't think they need a mentor. The 0 out of 10 are too afraid to get one. And I think that, to get back to the original point here, I think that trauma creates ego. I do. I think that these young kids aren't afraid of judgment as much. Maybe they aren't picked on as much. Maybe they haven't been hurt enough times. Maybe their heart hasn't been hurt enough times to where they have these big walls. Even that girl who shouted out, that's a huge tree. Like, in high school, as a junior or senior, that person would get made fun of. And so I think we build these walls to protect our heart, and it ends up protecting our heart, yeah, but it also keeps us very closed-minded, and there's a lot we could have trained that staff on that they could have learned, but if they're closed off.
Well, and again, we sucked.
Yeah,
We didn't do well. I want to make sure that's out there.
That's fair.
It's not like we went in and crushed it. We didn't hit a home run. I think we struck out.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
We struck out, and that was very humbling too.
Hello, my name's Eddie Pinero. I'm the founder of Your World Within, and I wanted to take a second and just express how valuable working with Alan has been. His ability to help me create clarity and maintain focus on my big picture goals has been huge. You know, he's been a huge asset with the roadmap as well. The day-to-day things, the little things that we sometimes overlook. I think anyone looking to, grow themselves, grow a business or both, would truly benefit from having Alan as an ally along the way. Again, great mind, but more importantly, solid dude.
What if this is happening? So let's just say hypothetically the young lady that was trying to get your attention, let's just say she wants to date men. Hypothetically. I don't know. Say one of two things happens. So you probably wouldn't see this, but there's a post on social media, it's kind of like a meme, and I think it says something bad happens to somebody and it's like their villain origin story. You know how like in superhero movies the villain always has some sort of origin story?
Yeah.
They were made fun of, whatever.
Yeah.
What if she dated somebody, and again, this is very hypothetical, but I've seen this with other people, so I assume it can happen, it can be mirrored. She dates somebody, and this person is very ego-driven. She now says, oh my goodness, I don't want to be around that level of ego. One of two things. You get very familiar with what that is and you avoid it at all costs, or you raise your ego. When you raise your ego, you attract more ego. And when you get more ego, you have to raise your ego or you have to be very vulnerable. And I think it's kind of this like, you become an attract. You become an attract. You become an attract. Where the opposite of that is you be, I don't know, whatever.
Authentic.
Extremely humble.
Yeah.
Extremely humble, and then you attract humility. And you actually, I think you repel. Ego. Maybe not though, because you and I have had that conversation a lot. But I just think of it, there's somebody I have in my mind, you know this person. This person, you'd think past version of this person was 12 out of 10 confident. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. This person always attracted people that were toxic and had a ton of ego, that made this person feel terrible about themselves. But they had to ego up, and they had to keep egoing up, and they had to keep egoing up.
To protect herself.
To protect us, yeah.
Yeah.
And at what point does the thing that protects you become who you actually think you are?
Right.
And that's the interesting thing.
That's the identity.
Right.
The identity, the bravado.
Yeah.
I think bravado is a good word for this. She had a very strong bravado, but I know that that's a show.
Wait, what did you say?
Bravado.
Spell it?
P-R.
No, bravado.
Is it bravado?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Sorry,
prosciutto.
I wasn't trying to call you out. I just didn't know if you were mispronouncing.
No, I was definitely I said it 8 times. Bravado? Is it bravado?
Yeah, it's bravado.
Oh my God. No wonder why I Jeff to the
taking credit.
Credit hit left and right. Okay, so she has a strong bravado. And I think that bravado is a show.
Yeah.
And I have trouble with this. I was in the gym earlier and I had a moment where I was like, did I used to push harder in the gym with my ego?
Probably.
And now I'm not willing to use that tool. You know what I mean? I get why people have it.
Yeah, I'm willing to push it.
I did a little bit today. You do. You push harder when you.
I think that's an aggressive place.
It's an aggressive place, yeah. But if you use the wrong tool at the wrong time with the wrong person, it can be very detrimental. The very thing that you create to get a better workout in can also hold you back from doing mobility.
Sometimes
or whatever, right?
you have to use ego to counteract resistance. Other times you have to use humility to counteract resistance. Like in your relationship, if there's some sort of resistance, you have to use humility. You shouldn't use ego. But if, like, the gym, you can't be humble with the weights.
Well, you and I were talking earlier, and I was like, I could have easily just pretended I'm not afraid of heights.
Yeah.
And I actually acted it out. I said, let me show you what it would be like if I just pretended that I'm not afraid of heights. And you could even tell my tone was different. Yeah. You could tell I was full of it.
Yeah. I said your body language is just different.
Yeah. It's. I think that's what we do. I think when we're scared to be hurt, I think we put an ego on when deep down we're just scared. And I think when you are vulnerable and own that fear, then you can actually go to work on the real issue. But there are times when you need to put on the ego because there's no other way out. You know?
One of the things we did that I think is rare, and I think is something I want to do more. I would like to start my speeches with this. But you and I both said, we are both afraid of what every single one of you in here thinks. I am afraid of judgment. Even in these episodes, I'm like, are people going to think the way we're talking about that person in the gym or the students or the staff, like, are they going to think that's negative? I always have that. I'm always thinking of that. Yeah. But I want to say that because I don't know. I think in a way it's almost when you think somebody thinks they're invincible, you want to hurt them more. I think at some level. And that's why I've said to you before, I think you'll always get different feedback than I do because you believe in yourself way more. I think a lot of people think that's
they almost need to test it.
Yeah, it's almost like you can handle it. Like you believe
Did
in
you
yourself.
think that there was a lot of ego?
Where?
In my speeches?
No. I didn't think there was.
There was probably more in the training than
I think
the speeches.
Some of the things you said could be misconceived as ego, but I don't think it was from a place of ego.
Okay.
But I think the same for me. Like, how do we go from 2 kids in Uxbridge to a business that makes several $100,000 a year? Like that can be misconstrued as ego.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
In the context, you can
do it
too, and it took us so long. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. It's definitely interesting. When you came up with the title of this episode, what was the main takeaway for you?
I don't even know. The main takeaway for me was...
1 second.
If you're not exploring... It kind of goes back to the episode on doing the experience review. If we didn't give that speech, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and everything that happened this week would be completely different. So yeah, I think it's my goal to share. Maybe you're not a speaker who just spoke to 1,150 kids, and you didn't get the results or the awareness that we have. Right. What could that, if you were on that stage, what would have happened to you, and what would that have meant for you?
And what's the lesson that we can give that we never would have got had we not had that experience?
Or what's the lesson you can take away based on something we say?
Yeah.
At least look in the mirror. I think that's a lot of times my goal. It's not, I don't think I'm gonna create a breakthrough, or if you're watching or listening, you're necessarily gonna leave with something new, other than the fact that you might ask yourself a different question.
How much and what of your persona came from way back in the day, hundreds of years ago, maybe thousands. It was the mask that they used to wear in plays. It was a persona. And so that's what it is the ego is like a mask you wear. It's an identity. It's kind of like you, Superman or Clark Kent, when you texted me, Snapchatted me, we talked about this in the last episode, you Snapchatted me saying, I feel like Superman in the gym and I feel like Clark Kent in real life. Now it's kind of been flip-flopped, which is interesting. But which one was the alter ego? Which one was the ego? Was it Clark Kent or was it Superman? The truth is Superman. The alter ego is Clark Kent. And so I think some people, it's that way. The truth is you're actually Superman or Superwoman, and you're shelling up and pretending to be less than. I think that woman today that I'm referring to was the opposite. I think she's actually Clark Kent and she's pretending to be Superwoman. And that's why it was a turnoff for me. But I bet you I would have fallen for that in my early days because I would have thought it was real. I probably would have been attracted to it. And she was also very beautiful. But I think that if you take nothing else from this episode, have you allowed your heart, your mind, and your hands to shut? Or are you still an open glass? And I'm not saying you open it up all the way because that's dangerous. You can't trust everyone. You can't, I'm not saying to just not be skeptical at all. I think the level of skepticism increased as age increased, and I think it was exponential. And I think that if you stay skeptical the rest of your life, you'll stay safe. You're not going to walk down a dark alley if you're skeptical. You'll be safe, but you won't be fulfilled because you'll never take a chance. And there might be gold in that dark alley. In that metaphor, it's not great because there's probably not gold in dark alleys, but you understand what I'm saying.
It's very interesting how you can either, say something, I don't want to say something bad happens. Something doesn't go the way you want it to go. You can either have humility and own it, or you can have an ego and say you had nothing to do with it. And one direction is going to lead you to truth and better results, and that's being humble and
Long term.
Yeah. And the other one is going to lead you to a quote-unquote safe life where you don't ever do anything wrong. It's never your fault. It's never your problem. But you're also going to be missing out on so much. Yeah. And I think that's what, when I wanted to say to the kids, I understand it's not cool to talk about what we're talking about. That's what I was trying to say, and I didn't say it. But I want you to understand that I know it feels safe to make fun of what we're talking about. But I'm going to win because of that. And you can too if you just shift that. Yeah. Be in the minority that thinks this is cool and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, which there always is certain people.
Exactly.
And they're going to kill it.
And they came up to us after.
Yeah, exactly.
And they came up to us after. Yeah. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to start a podcast.
And ironically, those are the people that are usually the outcasts. Yes. And that's what you've said.
Yes.
Is those are the people that were probably made fun of or bullied. And they resonated with me being bullied too.
Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. Interesting topic.
Yeah.
My goodness, we just finished the last episode of the week. Next level nation, we have a private Facebook group. You should join it. Because, well, this is the main reason. Let's connect it to this episode. Because there's no ego. There's very little ego. We've had, maybe in the last however many years we've had it, we might have had 2 or 3 people post stuff with ego or comment on somebody's things with ego, and they were immediately removed and they were banished from Next Level Nation because we don't have any, there's no place in that. There's enough ego, there's enough bullying, there's enough BS in the world. We will not perpetuate it and we will not be a part of it, and we don't want it in our community. So Next Level Nation is a safe place for you to be you, meet other people, and get to the next level.
The best way to describe Next Level Nation is we don't tolerate disrespect.
Put some respect on it.
Put some respect on it. It's a very respectful community where you are safe to be yourself and put yourself out there. We have a new book in book club. We did a vote.
Yes.
Yeah, we did a vote. I think there was like 30 votes.
Mine 25. Didn't win, which I was pretty devastated.
Kevin's did not win. The top 5 regrets of the dying was
Kevin's anyway,
vote.
But
Essentialism by Gregory McKeon. We live in a crazy world where even on our phones, my phone's over there, we have thousands of games we could play, thousands of apps we could download, thousands of photos and videos we can look at, thousands of people's pages we can look at on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. There's too much. It's too much. One of the reasons we do NLU is so that you can go to one source for your personal development. You don't have to search the whole internet for something valuable. So Essentialism by Gregory McKeon is my 3rd favorite book of all time for a reason. Join us on book club. The link will be in the show notes, and you can register. You can keep your mic and camera off if you just want to dip your toe in, or you can read the book and raise your hand and engage. It's a wonderful community. It's a safe place where no one's going to judge you. A lot of people think it's for intellectuals only. It's not. It's really, really, really not. It's a safe place to have a discussion about the book. And it's really quite magnificent. We just surpassed 87 weeks, I believe, so it's a really well-polished product at this point. Please register.
Next Level Nation, tomorrow for episode number 1163, last week's live podcast. How your expectations affect your reality. You'll actually see us in the Toronto studio, quote unquote, for that one. As always, we love you, we appreciate you, grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans, we have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
please reach out.